derivative relationship between price and quantity demanded, okay, holding other things constant. Ceteris paribus. What we mean there is there are other factors that can affect the quantity demanded of a good apart from price. Okay. So those other factors, we are ignoring them or holding them constant, and we just want to see, look at the relationship between price and quantity demanded. Okay. Quantity demanded, basically how much of a good you're buying. Okay. So let me illustrate this with a diagram. So you have a demand curve like this, a downward sloping line. Like this. Okay, this downward sloping line is showing the negative relationship. Right? You have price on your x-axis and you have quantity demanded on your y-axis. I mean, price on your y-axis and quantity demanded on your x-axis. Okay, like this. So basically what this is telling us, right, let's say for example, if a good costs 5 kwacha, you probably are able to buy, let's say, 10 units of that good. Okay. Maybe this can be soft drinks, some groceries, whatever. Okay. Now, if the price of the good had to increase from 5 kwacha to 15 kwacha, okay, I don't think we'll be able, I think we can all agree that we won't be able to buy these 10 units, okay, because the good has become expensive. Okay, so we might be able to buy, let's say, 5 units of the good. Alright. So, as we can see, price has increased from 5 kwacha to 15 kwacha. And the quantity demanded, or how much of the good you're buying, has dropped from 10 units to 5 units. Okay, so this is the negative relationship we are talking about between price and quantity demanded. Okay. Let's say, for example, we start again here, the good is 5 kwacha, and the price drops to 2.5 kwacha. Okay. So since it's cheaper, okay, let's say these are drinks. So since these drinks are cheaper, you can buy more of them. Okay, so let's say you can buy 15 of them. Okay. So here in this second illustration, price has gone down from 5 kwacha to 2.5 kwacha, but the quantity demanded, or the amount of goods we're buying, has increased from 10 units to 15 units. Okay, so this is this negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. So, the main reason why this demand curve is downward sloping is because of the substitution effect and the income effect. Okay. The substitution effect says when the price of a good changes, you substitute one good with another good, okay, holding your real income constant. Okay, but yes, when the price of one good changes, okay, if one good becomes cheaper than the other, for example, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, if Coca-Cola becomes cheaper than Pepsi, you substitute the Pepsi with the Coca-Cola. Okay. So if you are buying Pepsi earlier on, since the Pepsi's price has increased, right? So it means you are going to stop buying the Pepsi, okay? And you substitute with Coca-Cola, and vice versa. Right? Then the income effect is basically when the price of a good changes, all right, and you feel either richer or poorer. Okay. So as we saw in this illustration here, when the price becomes to 2.5 kwacha, you feel richer now and you can buy more of the good. Okay. If the price increases to 15 kwacha, you feel poorer because you feel poor. Okay. So when the price of a good changes and you feel richer or wealthier or poorer. Okay. Those are the two main reasons why this demand curve is downward sloping: substitution and income effect. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Now we have to be able to also differentiate between change in quantity demanded and change in demand. Okay. So when we say change in quantity demanded, this is what I've illustrated here. Okay, change in quantity demanded. Okay. This is just a movement along the demand curve. As you saw, when price increased from 5 kwacha to 15 kwacha, we moved from point A to point B. Okay. Start again from point A, price drops from 5 to 2.5 kwacha. Okay. We move from A to C. This is change in quantity demanded, okay? And this is only caused by price. Price is the factor that will change how much of a good you buy. In this, when we mean change, when we're talking about change in quantity demanded. Okay. The next aspect is change in demand, which now will be illustrated like this on the graph. Change in demand. Okay, so as we can see here, change in demand is illustrated by shifts. Okay, like this. demand curve shifts to the right. Okay, and we're going to soon look at what causes this demand curve to shift like that. Okay. Then if the demand curve shifts to the left like this, it's like this is a decrease in demand. Decrease in demand, shift to the left. Increase in demand, shift to the right. Alright? This is what we mean change in demand, when the demand curve is shifting. Okay? So now we're going to look at the factors that cause the demand curve to shift. Okay? Which are also called the non-price determinants of demand. Okay? These are the factors that will cause this demand curve to shift. As you see, the price has stayed the same, but the quantities are changing. Okay. So the first one is number of customers. Okay. Let's think of this as the demand curve for a certain product. Okay, maybe let's say Fruticana. Okay. If you start at point A here, okay, let's say for example, Fruticana is being sold at 5 kwacha, and the quantities that are, the annual quantities that are being bought, let's say, is 10 million units. Okay. Then, I don't know which company is the one that makes Fruticana. Let's say they expand into new territories and they start acquiring new customers. Okay, people start buying Fruticana. Okay, they start taking Fruticana in the places where it's not found, and they start selling it there. Okay, people are going to start buying that Fruticana, and what's going to happen? There will be an increase in the demand. Okay, so it will be moved from point A to point B. You find now the annual demand increases from 10 million to 20 million. Okay, because there are new customers. Okay. So if the number of customers increases, if the number of customers increases, the demand increases, and vice versa. Okay. If the number of customers drops, okay, people stop buying Fruticana. Let's say at point A again here. Okay, people stop buying Fruticana. Demand is going to shift to the left like this. So find now from 10 million units, you're selling 5 million units. Okay. You haven't changed the price of the Fruticana, no? It's still the same. You're saying let's add 5 kwacha there. The next factor is consumer expectations.
Look.
Okay. If we expect prices to rise, we tend to spend more. Okay. Or another way to put it, we spend when we expect prices to rise. Okay. For example, let's go back here. Let's talk about, let's say this is the market for petrol. Okay, we're on point A. They announce the price of petrol is dropping tomorrow. What happens? Everybody rushes I mean, the price of petrol is increasing tomorrow. It's not dropping, increasing tomorrow. Okay, even maybe in 1 week's time. Okay, so especially if we hear the price is increasing tomorrow, we see what happens at the petrol stations. Everyone will go there. The petrol stations become full. There are lines why everyone wants to buy the cheaper petrol. So you find demand for petrol increases. There is a shift now. Okay? Because now a lot of people have come to buy the petrol. They want to buy the cheaper petrol. Okay? And the opposite is also true. If we start at point A and they tell us the price of petrol is going to drop, okay, people are going to go to the wait first. They're going to wait, okay, until the price drops so that they can buy the cheaper petrol. Okay, so demand might drop, okay, because people are waiting for the cheaper price. When the petrol becomes cheap, that's when people start buying it. Okay? So when we expect prices to rise, we spend. When we expect prices to fall, we save and then wait for them to fall. Okay? Then you would also professional and celebrity influence. Okay. If a celebrity endorses a drink, okay, like this, if we go back to the market for Fruticana. Okay, a celebrity endorses it. Okay, find followers of that celebrity will buy the drink. You'll be inclined to buy the drink because you've seen that's the celebrity you admire. Okay, so demand for the product can rise. Okay, that's why you see a lot of companies putting celebrities on billboards so that they influence you to buy their product or their service. Okay. Even let's say if a doctor comes on the news and says, okay, Fruticana can give you cancer, because we know that's a doctor saying that, we'll be now scared of drinking Fruticana. So what will happen? Demand for Fruticana will drop because no one wants to take that risk because the doctor said so. Okay. Another factor is consumer tastes and preferences. Okay. So certain goods come in trends. Okay, there are trends for certain goods. Okay. And after that trend finishes, that good goes into extinction. Okay. For example, as technology develops, we've seen no one uses Walkmans or Discman anymore. Okay. No one is using DVDs, VCDs anymore. Okay, because now we've got better services. There are streaming services now. Okay, you just go on the internet and basically, there's Netflix and these are the channels. Okay, so you don't need a DVD or a Walkman. I mean, a DVD or VCD. Even worse, a VHS tape player. You don't need that anymore. Okay, because movies are now digital. So certain goods come with a trend. Okay, when the good is trending, people are buying it. Okay, I remember also there was a point in terms of fashion. These shiny jeans, which used to be famous, I think that was probably early 2000s. Yes, early 2000s. Yes, there were these shiny jeans for male teenagers. Okay? They were in fashion. Everyone wanted to have a silver shiny jeans. It was the trend. Okay. But now in 2026, you might not see them. Okay, because at that time they were it was a trend to have them. Okay? They always had labels: Rough Riders, Sean Combs. I don't know those labels, yeah. And there was silver jeans. So every male teenager wanted to have. So they were on high demand. Okay. But now fashion changes. So even in the fashion industry, this is where you see consumer tastes and preferences on the products. Okay? When the product is trending, or that fashion is trending, there will be high demand. People want it. But once the trend changes, there's a new product, people stop. Yeah, people stop buying that product. Okay, number 5, income levels. Okay. If the income levels, like let's say like in a country, especially like in a country, okay, if income levels increase, the economy is doing well, right? People will start buying more of your product. Okay, people start buying more of your product. So let's say if your income right now maybe is, let's say 10,000, maybe you're just buying 50 fruticanas, then your income increases now to 15,000. You'll find you can even buy now 100 fruticanas. But if income levels drop, it might affect. Or would you kindly mute your mic? Yes, if income levels fall, meaning let's say there's a recession and people have lost jobs, they don't have money, your product won't be selling as much because people don't have money to buy it. Okay. Yes, so number of customers, consumer expectations, professional, celebrity influence, doesn't matter. And finally, price of related goods. Okay, this is where you have the substitutes and complementary goods. Okay, so a substitute and a complementary good have an effect on the demand of a certain good. Okay. Let's look at Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Okay, so we see here Coke, and here we have Pepsi. And Pepsi is the substitute good. Now, if you are explaining in the exam, you don't need to put these diagrams. Okay, you don't need to put these diagrams. I'm just trying to illustrate here. It's price here, quantity also there. Let's say both of these are priced at 5 kwacha each. Okay. Theoretically, let's say Coke is priced at 5 kwacha. Okay. This is the market for Coca-Cola. It's priced at 5 kwacha. Maybe 100,000 units are being sold. Here's the market for Pepsi. Pepsi is being also sold at 5 kwacha. Say they are also selling 100,000 units like Coca-Cola. Okay. Now, if the price of Pepsi increases from 5 kwacha to 10 kwacha, what happens is Pepsi becomes more expensive than Coca-Cola. So people stop buying Pepsi. Okay, so you see here quantity demanded here drops. Let's say now from 100,000 units, they're selling 50,000 units. Why? Because people have seen, oh, Pepsi is more expensive, let me substitute it with Coca-Cola. So what happens is the demand for Coca-Cola increases. From 100,000 units to now 150,000 units. Okay. These 50,000 customers now started buying Coca-Cola. Okay. So this is the main point of what this graph is trying to illustrate. When the price of a substitute good goes up, the demand for the other good, okay, increases. Okay. As we saw here, price of Pepsi went up, demand for Coca-Cola also went up. So there's like a positive relationship between the substitute good and the price of the substitute good and the price of the other and the demand for the other good. Okay, positive relationship between price of substitute good and demand for the other good. Because what I'm meaning a positive relationship is when if the price goes up, the substitute, the demand for the other good also goes up. Okay. And the other way is also true. If the price, let's say for example, again Pepsi and Coca-Cola will start, they're both 5 kwacha each, then the price of Pepsi drops now to 2.5 kwacha. Okay. So what has happened is, by the price of Pepsi going down to 2.5 kwacha, it's cheaper than Coca-Cola. Okay. It is cheaper than Coca-Cola. Okay. So what happens? The quantity demanded of Pepsi increases from 100 to 150. Okay. Then what happens to the demand for Coca-Cola? Since people have seen the Pepsi is cheaper, demand for Coca-Cola reduces. Okay? Demand for Coca-Cola reduces. Okay, because people are going for the cheaper Pepsi. Okay? So I find demand for Coca-Cola now drops to 50,000. Okay? These 50,000 went to start purchasing Pepsi. Okay? So obviously the price drops, also the demand for the other good drops. Okay. Any questions, colleagues? Okay. Now we're going to look at complementary goods. These are goods that are used together with other goods. Okay. Goods used together with other goods. Okay. Perfect example, tea and sugar. Okay, no one can eat sugar alone. Okay, no one just goes to buy sugar just to consume that sugar. Okay, so sugar is the complementary good here. Then you also have tea. Okay, and also tea is mostly prepared with sugar. Okay, tea is also mostly prepared with sugar. So here we have tea here, and we have sugar. Okay, sugar in this case is the complementary good. So the price of tea is 10 kwacha per tea bag. Sugar, let's say its price is 20 kwacha. So if the price of sugar increases from 20 kwacha, let's say it goes to 30 kwacha. Okay. Since sugars become more expensive, people buy less sugar. Now, as people buy less sugar, the tea is not nice without sugar. Okay? Tea isn't nice without sugar. I believe all of us, we can agree tea isn't nice without sugar. Okay? So, what happens? People start buying less tea. Okay? Yes, there are those people who can drink tea without sugar, well and good. Okay? But you find a good number of people who stop buying tea. Okay? So you find a decrease in the demand of tea. So here the main law that you need to remember is there is a negative relationship between the price of a complementary good and the demand of the other good. Okay. So here the price of sugar rose. Okay. People stop buying sugar, and eventually, since they're not buying sugar, they don't like tea without sugar, so they also stop buying tea. Okay, and you see the demand for tea drops. Yeah. And the opposite is true. If the price of sugar drops, let's start again at 20 kwacha, it drops to 10 kwacha, sugar becomes cheap. So people buy more sugar. Okay, so what happens to the demand for tea? The demand for tea is going to increase. So for complementary goods, there is a negative relationship between the price of the complementary good and the demand for the other good. Okay. So yes, these are the main non-price determinants of demand. Okay, let's just go through them again. Number of customers, which is market size. More customers, more demand. Less customers, less demand. Consumer expectations. If we expect prices to rise, we spend. If we expect prices to drop, we save and wait until the prices actually drop. So when we expect prices to rise, demand also increases because we're spending. Okay? But when you expect prices to drop, demand is going to reduce. Why? Because we're saving and we're not spending it. Okay? So demand will drop. Okay? Professional and celebrity influence. If a famous person or a qualified or a professional person gives their opinion about a certain good, which is positive, or a celebrity is endorsing a good, demand tends to rise because people will be influenced to buy that good. Okay? Now, if the professional, like a doctor, says the good is bad, is harmful, demand will drop because you are scared to take that good because of the consequences. Consumer tastes and preferences. If a good is trending, demand increases because since the good is trending, everyone wants it, so they are buying more of it. But once that trend stops, okay, or maybe there's new technology or a new product that is better, okay, like how the videotapes and the VHS, how it's been removed because the technology has advanced. No one needs videotapes anymore. Okay. So demand for videotapes and VHS players, there's no demand. Okay. There isn't any demand. Okay. Income levels. If income levels rise, people have got more disposable income, demand will increase because they're buying more of your good. If income levels drop, it means disposable income drops. Disposable income is just money to spend. If disposable income drops, people buy less of your good, demand drops. And then finally, the price of substitute goods and price of complementary goods. Remember, substitute goods, the price has a positive relationship with the demand of the good. Complementary good has a negative relationship with the